pitching jury members. We also have Faruk Güven in our pitching jury, but he won't be joining us today because it's only international jury talk today. Frederic is joining us from France, if I'm not mistaken, and Per is joining us from Norway. So welcome you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very lovely to be able to chat with you, have a talk with you before the pitching presentations start on Wednesday. We're not going to go into any details about the projects, but it's just a little bit of information exchange to get to know you better and your thoughts and opinions about film market in Turkey. So I want to start with Frederic. So just to tell our audience a little bit about you, you've been the artistic director of Tribeca Film Festival since 2012 and Les Arcs European Film Festival since 2009. And this year, you are the head of programming at a festival in Iceland. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
I don't know, Reykjavik is just, it was my first year and it was pretty extraordinary because extraordinary, it was hybrid, so it was not so extraordinary. But the festival is great because the audience is extremely young, between 25 and 35. So it was a great experience. We hope we're gonna make it for real. Tribeca, I will be there in November and until Berlin, and after Berlin, we are finishing the selection. Tribeca is in June this year because they postponed the Oscars to April. So usually it's April, but it's gonna be in June, which I hope is gonna be good to do something outside, but I hope inside. And Les Arcs, I'm preparing the next edition and I'm doing programming the films and the works in progress. And by the way, I'm not a super reader. I know how to read a script, but mostly what's interesting for me is how the film will look. So not only the story, but also the image, cinematography, the sound, and the mise en scène, which is I'm a little bit more precise about that than reading scripts. I'm reading, but I'm not reading every day. That's it.
Thank you. And Per-Erik is with us as a Sorfond project manager. As you may all know, Sorfond is a film production fund jointly administered by the Norwegian Film Institute and the Films from South Festival. And you're also one of the programmers in Films from South Film Festival, as well as Oslo Pix International Film Festival.
Yes.
How's that going?
Well, it's an awkward year for all of us in the industry, I guess. Our next festival up now, the Films from the South Festival, it's coming up now in 1 month. We start the end of November, 26th of November. Yeah, it's special. It's going to be a hybrid version. We do quite a lot of films online this year with a streaming service, but we hope to have our audience show up in our screening theaters as well, because we do show around 80 films this year in the cinemas as well, but obviously with a lot of hand sanitation and distancing and all that. So it's an awkward year. I just hope, cross my fingers for this absurd situation not to continue too long.
Yeah, and I really think it's the only benefits. It's probably in festivals we're going to keep, for me, in my sense, the idea, of course, to have a festival with the filmmakers and the Q&A and the screening room and the big screen, which is, of course, the dream of each filmmaker, but also to make it online, or minimum geo-block from the country, because I think for people who are living even in a village or somewhere, they cannot go to the place, they want to see what's happened, even if it's 5, 10, or 20, and probably more. I think it's something to keep this platform, like Shift 72, Festival Scopes, and many. I think it's quite interesting to keep it alive and to make Q&A in the screening room, but also online for people who cannot attend the festival.
Yeah, but what do you think about the online festivals? Like, I understand that it's some way of keeping it alive, but it's kind of the emotion and the unity, like we're doing the market side online. And it would be more than a pleasure if we could have you arriving here and having one-to-one chance to connect with the projects or like with the industry one-to-one. So that part is kind of sad for us, I believe.
Yes, of course, it is sad, but what is sad is people cannot go to cinema these days. So then, so we have to. But I think I was in Rome at the Mia market, and I found a kind of solidarity. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow, and I don't. Me myself, I don't even know. But I really appreciate it was like a union of people from distributors, sales agent, filmmaker. They don't really know, but we are on the same boat. So I think there is something quite pleasant to see the film industry supporting the other festivals, supporting films in general, and not only our film festival, which is also very important. But I think there is something. I think it was very generous for everybody to think about what's going to happen next and to do it together.
Yeah. So Per, my next question to you is, can you give us a little bit of information about Sorfond and Sorfond Plus? And you also have a Sorfond pitching platform that you do within Films from the South Festival. I know that there was a project from Turkey, Gürcan Caltech's new project. How's that process is going? What can you tell about those platforms for us?
Yeah, sure. Well, to start off with Surfund, sort of with the English title TALE, I guess being the Norwegian South Film Fund, it is connected to the festival I just mentioned that I'm programming for, called the Films from the South Festival. So seeing that Norway is so far north, more or less everything is south for us. But in Norway is a well-established term when we're speaking of the global south. We talk about Latin America, Africa, Asia, Middle East. So this is a geographical sort of areas that both the festival and the fund covers. It's production support only. We don't do development with Surfund. We only do production support, and it's kind of a sweet deal, I'd say, because it's soft money, it's a grant, and we hardly have any spending requirements. So what you need is 50% of your budget confirmed at the time of applying. We only have one deadline each year, and that's in March, normally 1st of March. And you need a Norwegian co-producer. So the two main sort of thresholds for being able to even apply is a Norwegian co-producer and 50% of your budget in place. And once that's secured, you can apply, and then a grant you get from us, you can and actually have to spend in your region. So Turkey being one of the eligible countries, of course, means as a Turkish filmmaker, we want you to make a Turkish film. We don't want you to sort of hire a Norwegian crew or spend money in Norway. On the contrary, you have to spend a minimum of 70% of the grant that we give in your country. And 10% as a maximum will be retained, held back by the Norwegian co-producer as salary for his service. So it's a very beneficial fund for the filmmakers. The reason for that is we are supported, we are financed by our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the money we get, it's channeled through the budget for cultural aid. So that is why the money should be spent elsewhere and not in Norway. We normally grant, we're not a big fund on the global scale, but we normally support 6-7 projects every year. And as you rightly mentioned, last year we had Gerson Keltek's project New Dawn Fades. It was part of our pitching forum, and it went on to apply in March for our production support, and it received a grant from us in May. So I'm very happy about that. And yeah, shortly, the pitching forum. We have a pitching forum attached to the festival, the Films from the South Festival in November. It's a place where we invite 6 projects, so it's a by invite only event. We invite 6 projects from partnering film markets around the world, and the filmmakers come to present their projects and meet an audience of Norwegian co-producers, and it's a networking event.
Thank you. And as I understand, keeping in mind that the minimum 50% of the financing of the projects has to be secured, they have to have a Norwegian partner. You support both fiction and documentary films. We can say that you only the projects at the early development stage is maybe too early to apply to Sorfond. So some things need to be secured first.
True.
And Frederick, I want to ask you, how can you explain your position as artistic director? Like, what do you do? How do you work? What are your artistic criteria for a project to be appreciated and loved by you?
Yes, but I'm working in different film festivals. So in New York, it's we are not selecting the same film in each festival. I mean, in Europe, yes, in Europe, most of the art house film festival are more or less the same films. I can give the example of a great Turkish film which was in Venice called Ghost, which I think is fantastic. So the film is invited everywhere, but it's totally normal. So, and when I'm selecting for Les Arcs, of course, I'm selecting film from Venice, San Sebastian. Of course, there is no Locarno, and but more or less we're on the same film. For New York, it's different because we are selecting a lot of documentaries, almost 50%, which is not the case in Les Arcs and in Reykjavik. We are also, we try to bring a film, but also a story with the film. What we can say with the film, or is it a film about music? Maybe we can have a performance. Can we organize something? So there is so many criteria, and we are receiving a lot of submission, of course, in Tribeca. But we are working as everybody with a team, people watching the film, discussing the film, and deciding at the end. And of course, we are wrong sometimes, and sometimes we are right. So I think it's not exact science to program. It's just, but the most important is to love the film we're going to present. And this is to support the film. And because the other difficulties in any festival is not only to love the film, but to get the films. Because there is other festivals, people want to premiere, I don't know, in Berlin or for Tribeca. So it depends, but there's so many factors, which is, it's not only to discuss a film and love the film, but also to get the film from the producer, the sales agent. There's all the criteria which are, for example, in Tribeca, we prefer to play world premiere. Of course, we play international premiere, but if the film was already went to a lot of film festival, even if it's a masterpiece, I'm not sure we're going to have it. So we're going to play a film which was maybe in Sundance, some films. In Berlin, very few. Rotterdam, very few. Gothenburg, very few. And most of the time, it's people who are choosing New York as a premiere. So it's not only premiere, but we try to have a lot of world premiere, which is so. It depends. It's really it's a fantastic question, but we can spend 10 hours to talk about programming because I think it's fascinating and it's interesting, and also it's you think about the film, but you want to help a film, but you cannot only help a film. You want to play a film because you think it's better than another one. And there is also another factors which is going to happen much more because of the COVID. It's like, of course, everybody are criticizing the film festival because we don't have enough comedies, which is true, but it's not because we don't love comedies. We all love comedies. But by the way, it's also, we need also to bring something fresh. We need to bring something different, something maybe underground or experimental. We have to surprise the audience. We have to keep it, so it's quite difficult to respond because each festival has its own way to work. Just what I can say, it's most of the festival, and Tribeca, of course, it's very democratic. So we are watching the film, we are noting the film, we are discussing the film, and we are giving reason why we don't take the film. And plus we are giving feedbacks when we are rejecting films. We have to explain why, because you cannot ask film and not giving feedback, especially if you are in contact with the producers. So this work is, in my sense, essential.
I understand. And do you think having a distributor, having it a multinational co-production affects your decisions? And this question can be forwarded to you as well, Per.
I don't know. I think to have a distributor in the US, of course, it's good to support the film, but we are also playing film with absolutely no distributors, with no contact. We know absolutely nobody, but we love the film and we think it's going to be a great opportunity to invite the film. So there is not rules concerning the distributors. And about the co-producers, I don't think so neither. So it's, I think it's just, for me, the film are just talking by themselves. And we are looking, of course, a lot about the topic, the subject, but mostly about the crafting, production value, and how the film look, and that's it. It's like the only thing which is super difficult is to watch film all day and to keep your eyes fresh and to be still excited by something. So this is super important for me. From what I'm doing, I'm watching film super early in the morning, around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So until noon, I have, it's much better for me because I don't have a lot of phone call, no Zoom. So you have to be concentrated, take notes, and and then sometimes you are watching the film and you are not thinking about the film, and the day after you are really thinking about the film, because I think cinema is going to your vein, to your body. Sometimes a film, you don't absorb the film immediately, but the film is coming back to you. This is a very good sign. So then you have to watch it again.
Thank you. And Per, production value and having a co-producer, does it affect? I know that in Sorfond, it's like you require a Norwegian co-producer, but like, let's say while you're programming, is there certain criteria you're looking for?
I mean, not in terms of being co-production or distributors, as you mentioned, but obviously we look at the production value of a film. We want the film to look good, but it's, as Frederick says, it's about sort of the film speaking to you. It's about the quality of the film. And in terms of distribution deals, that often comes on board after the festivals. But then again, for the festival that I program, the films from the South Festival, we are not focusing on world or international premieres. We're focusing on Scandinavian premieres. So we're mainly an audience festival. We want to sort of show our audience here in Oslo, Norway, the sort of best from the international sort of festival film scene. So as such, we don't meet as many obstacles as Frederic mentions in terms of actually getting the film. Because if we see a film in, let's say in May in Cannes, and our festival is in November, we normally get that film. The problem is just if we are the first in Scandinavia to get that film. So the competition is smaller, luckily for us, but yeah, it's about sniffing out sort of the best films out there. And for us, it's very much also about curating like a complete puzzle. Frederic mentions that we all love comedies, but as film festivals, we often tend to have too few of them. But it's about programming a complete selection of films as well. So the films need to speak to you, but you also have to always think about there needs to be something for everyone, and different genres, different emotional sort of depths.
Yes, I totally agree with Per. I think it's like for me, it's like a restaurant and a menu. You need to have a starter, you need the dessert, you need the grappa. Sometimes you are defending a film because there is two actors. The film is not great, but you can support the film because of acting. You can support the film because of the topic. There is a way, so many different point of view how to defend the film. So it's a reason why festivals are important, because they are curated. We are presenting the film. We are having lunch or dinner with the film team when they are invited, when they can come. So I think it's very important to explain to the audience what we are going to do. Otherwise, you have a platform and you can watch a film, but you need not only information, but we need to express why we love the film, why we think it's important to show the film in our festival. But there is one point which is a little bit less poetic. It's about getting the films, because now distribution, art house distribution is not doing very well, except some countries, including France, which is still okay, even if it's super difficult. So of course, the sales company or agent, they are asking fees. So this is also a question of budget, because there is a lot of festivals, they cannot spend 1,000 or more for two screening or one screening of a film. So then sometimes they cannot pay, they cannot afford it, because now for many sales company, this is, they have someone working on the festival side, and it's a lot of, they need us to give them money because they don't sell the film to Norway. So there is film festival in Norway, there is film festival in France, and then you are adding all this, and it's like selling a film. And by the way, before, like a long time ago, when I was going, I still going to Cannes, but in Cannes, a film festival was not able to have any meeting with a sales agent before the beginning of next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, at the end of the market. Now we are the first to be invited. Thursday, please come to us, and because you have to discuss it, because this is, so the economy of the industry changed a lot. And I think we have to find a balance, you know, because there is also the question, are we inviting the filmmakers? So it's a way, we are discussing all the films. So it depends on the side of the festival, but sometimes we cannot afford, we cannot pay such a, I mean, film festival don't have an extended budget. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So this is it's not the dark side, it's just the business side of the festivals. No?
I think lots of festivals are going through the same phase.
Yeah.
Would you say so, Per?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough sort of business to be in, because there's not, as we all know, there's not a lot of money in festivals. You have the big festivals that are so attractive that they get sponsors, the big sponsors. But speaking sort of for the case of the festival I programmed for, the films from the South Festival in Oslo, we're not attractive enough for international sponsors. We obviously have some national sponsors, but it means our main income is public support, but mainly ticket sales. And so you're also obviously always in the limbo of like, we need people to come watch our films, but we still want to sort of challenge our audiences, giving them fresh and sort of experimental films that challenge their perception of what a film should and could be. And that's not always going hand in hand with actually making money of that film. So yeah, it's a tough business.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, I want to get your opinion on films from Turkey. What are your opinions? Like, Frederick, you've been coming as a guest to Turkey a lot, and Per, we had a little chat earlier before going live. It's his first time attending to a film lab. So I want to know a little bit about your opinion of how was it before from your perspective, and what do you think of the projects, the films that are produced now in Turkey? Maybe we'll start with Frederick.
Yeah, I don't know. I think things are changing, and you are one of the country. You have a master of cinema, which is Nuri Bilge, and this is the case for Belgium. They have the Dardenne, Denmark. They have Lars von Trier. And you know, this really, Russia, you have Zazinsiev, of course. You have these masters that are always going to Cannes, and of course, they are almost genius. And it's difficult for the young generation to be to give their own voice. It's super difficult, but things are changing, I think, in Turkey. So I'm not Turkish, but I'm following, and I see so many projects which are, let's say, independent or indie, or and film which doesn't look a Nuri Bilge type of film, which is, it can look like a Nuri Bilge type of film, but you have a film under the influence of the master, which I think is very important, to be different. And I would say to not be exactly Turkish. You can be Turkish, but you don't have to look Turkish. It's like you are asking someone in France to make a film with a baguette, beret in Paris. No, we don't do that. We are making film which are international, but we are French. And the Norwegian, same. They are making their film, but they don't have to shot in a glacier. We don't care. So it's like reversing and not giving exactly the image of people are waiting for, which I think the most interesting for us, because it gives the perspective of an international point of view, especially on the young filmmakers, for the young filmmakers.
And Per, since you supported one Turkish project recently, you've probably read many, I'm assuming.
Yes, definitely. I've read several projects from young Turkish filmmakers, and I've been very impressed by the level, the quality level. I can't say I'm sort of a connoisseur of Turkish cinema. For that, I haven't sort of watched enough. But just to mention, another Turkish director I really like, Tolga Karaçelik. I'm not sure if I pronounce his name correctly, but a good example of a young sort of fresh voice, I think, within cinema that really impresses with his films. We had him visiting our festival 2 years back, and I was very inspiring to hear his master classes that he had at our festivals. So.
Lovely to hear. And my question, we kind of at the beginning touched to this subject, but in this current COVID-19 situation, how does your timeline change and like your working methods has been affected. Yet, like, it's not wrong to say that many projects who wish to be produced within this year were unable to be produced. And does this affect your applications and like the films you watched? How was this process for you, and how's it going so far?
Should I reply to that, or
yeah, please go ahead.
I don't know. We're starting the submission in Tribeca in the beginning of September, and we have much more submissions. But so there is a film which stopped in March, and now they are not ready, so are submitting. So we have a lot of film submitted. And this is for application. For us, for me, nothing changed because I'm working at home. The only good thing I think is we are not traveling so much, which is I think is good, because I agree we don't have to take a plane for 2 days. I think if I can stay at home, of course, I would love to come to Turkey. But for many of my colleagues who are thinking twice how to travel, how to be a little bit more, so like a real citizen of this world, and not travel just for 2 or 3 days, but do something in Turkey. Yes, to be in a jury, of course. I think it's important. But I'm traveling less, and I think it's better for me, and not only for me. And about submission, it's like yes, nobody knows because the film are not done. But not only the film are not done, but we don't know if the film going to be distributed, because so many films didn't go to Carlo Vivari, to Locarno, even Toronto, especially European film, because they were playing less than 10 films. They didn't play a lot, and there is not a lot European film in Toronto this year. And then festivals are canceled. Sundance is going to be mostly online. So it's going to be difficult because, of course, the filmmakers, what they want, what they don't want is to have their premiere online. So when a film festival like, don't know, Rotterdam or Berlin is proposing a premiere online, maybe they're going to accept, but sometimes, most of the time, they prefer to wait and postpone to have a premiere somewhere when they have a screening not online, and especially geo-blocked from their country. So this is all the problem of the film which are done. They are shooting now. There's a lot of films. The things we don't know where the film going to play first. So I think next year is going to be a little bit difficult and same for distributions. Where the film they plan it to be distributed, but they don't know when. In France we have between 14 and 20, 22 films each week distributed, which is a lot. So in a normal time. So can you imagine after the COVID how it's going to be? So there's also this crisis distribution, and also how many people want to go back to cinema, which is for me the main concern for me.
And when do you think the festivals will be able to greet people again?
I would love to know. But I think the film festival is one of the element of the film industry which still people love to go to film festival. They try experiences in Sarajevo, in Carlo Vivari, to play a film or 2 films of the festival the week after the festival. Nobody was coming. Nobody cares. People want to be together. It's like a concert or a restaurant. You don't go to an empty restaurant. You go to a restaurant because there's some other people inside. So film festival is also sharing something, and the most interesting is sharing with strangers, with people you don't know. And then also, of course, to discuss about the film, if you like it, if you dislike the film, but to debate about the film, to watch a Q&A, and to have your journey from the beginning to night, to eat sandwiches, and this is the pure happiness for a young cinephile is extraordinary. And you cannot find it on the platform. You find this experience only in a film festival. And film festivals are full. People where we are selling tickets people are interested. And now it's like we have also an issue with film festival, but it's changing now, which is, I think it's very promising. The audience is became a little bit older. I mean, older, younger than me, but still old. I mean, more than 50 years old. And I think it's quite interesting because now film festivals are attracting people who they didn't watch a lot of film, but they want to see a film. And it's like when you go, you are using CD doesn't exist anymore. But if you go to Spotify or Deezer, for not naming the music platform, but people decide also to buy a vinyl and to play the vinyl, and it's going well. So I think the idea to watch a film, and sometimes the film is shot in 35 or 16 millimeters, it's an experience, and I think it's also something which is also extremely essential to each festival, is to play a classic film, a restored version of an old film, just to give this discovery as a gift to the audience, and especially the young audience. I think it's quite interesting to have a carte blanche from an actor, just to play film from 1960, 1935, a silent film, and to play film which are not only the last film from this year, but the film we love from before, but with a beautiful print, beautiful copy.
Yeah, for us, it's our 30th edition of the festival this year. So we were planning a big anniversary edition of the festival. Obviously, COVID was a big speed bump in our plans. But as I said, we're doing a hybrid version because cinemas in Norway are still open, some of them, because our rates of COVID cases are relatively low compared to elsewhere in Europe. And we are doing exactly that. We are screening a lot of old films this year from our previous 30 editions. So showing a lot of classics. And this is obviously because we want to, and it's a celebration, but it's also a practicality because this year there hasn't been that many big premieres of those films that you're looking for that will pull the audience. So it will also...
Yes, I think it's a fantastic idea. Can you imagine for a young filmmaker this year, they just restored Wong Kar-wai in The Mood for Love. For someone who is 25, 30 years old, they don't know Wong Kar-wai. They don't know In the Mood for Love. So it's like you are playing for the first time John Coltrane or Miles Davis to a kid, but they're going to think it's magic, it's extraordinary. So you are bringing not only the quality, but the quality of the cinema. So I think it's really interesting to mix the whole film. Also, but I learned it also working for Tribeca, to bringing also documentaries, because I think it's really interesting for the audience. It's a different approach because sometimes you can have a documentary which think it's mainstream, but the film is interesting. Even the film about Greta, which was in Venice, which I think is a great film. It's a simple film. There is nothing extraordinary. We are not talking about Murnau or Fritz Lang. We are talking about simple film. But I think it's interesting to bring people in a screening room to see that, and I think it's much more interesting than watching TV. I think it's because watching TV, you stop, you have food, you have the kids, you can do that. Yes, you use your phone and you're texting. Now you cannot escape, and I think it's a good thing. You cannot escape. You cannot smoke. In festival in Europe, you cannot eat and drink. And I like all this restriction. I think it's like you are going to a church. So it's not far going to a church, any religion. It's not a Catholic church, but I think there is a celebration to go to a screening room. Each time is unique. Each time it's something which I think it's exciting. And even if you don't like the film, it's okay. You don't like the film, this is, you did not waste your time in a way. So I think it's all these, so I really hope the screening room and the venue are going to stay, because I think it's important. I think they're going to stay because I think there is something we cannot lose, I think.
I think the way you guys explained it, it's kind of an answer to all these questions rising due to the increase of digital platforms and the content, and how filmmakers are kind of yearning to do create something in that format. I think the way you explain how that experience is very um, much different, and the union watching it on big screen. I think it kind of gave an explanation to all the questions
Yeah.
of the difference between digital platforms and cinema.
Yes, of course. But digital platform, the problem, they are better. Months after months, they are bringing good stuff. For filmmakers to premiere a film on Netflix, Amazon, or HBO, it's also fantastic because millions of people going to see the film. So I think it's something great. But the difference in the film festival, we are naming the filmmakers, we are introducing. It's something we can do both. You can have platform, and I'm using platform. I'm watching film on platform, and there is some. When it's not good, I'm not watching, but I'm also watching series, good ones. Sometimes they are not good, but it's also one of the things. So I really appreciate it, and especially docs. But film festival is something different. It's like going to a picnic trip. It's like hiking. You bring all and you go to this place. So this is especially when it's festival and you stay 3 days, 4 days, or a week. In Carlo young people are doing camping outside of the town, and they are just in a tent. And during the day, they are in the screen, and they are young. So I think it's working. There is something exciting to talk to people who are watching films. It exists since the beginning of cinema. Then the problem is the independent distributors. So it's more and more difficult in Germany, in Italy, of course, in England is difficult. So I have a kind of privilege to be French because, of course, in France, we have so many connections with exhibitors in France. So it's different. But you can see in the US, you have also in New York, you have the Metrograph. You have so many you have independent distributor. They have their own cinema, and they are inventing way to bring people back to see films. So it's really a difficult period now, but it's going to go well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the future for festivals and more arts house / combined sort of event cinemas are going to do well in the future as well, because that's what people want. They want to experience something together. Whereas I'm more concerned about sort of the more commercial films being able to fill all the cinemas that are out there, because people are like the online availabilities or services are getting better and better, and people in their homes are getting a bigger and bigger screen. So going to the cinema is not technically such a big difference anymore. But what people would like to go to the cinemas for would be sort of, to use your image from earlier, Frederic, it's like going to a restaurant. As a festival, you need to provide a proper menu. So a normal streaming online film is more like fast food, whereas the festivals, we provide proper, good restaurant food with a curated menu.
Exactly. But I think it's also something we have to say, because we are curating films, both we are selecting films, and hopefully we have people who are programming films, because I'm not only defending art cinema, because I'm watching so many art cinema, and there is so many films which are super boring. It's not because the film is independent, it's good. It's not the film is a blockbuster, it's bad. I love blockbusters, and I love also art. I love cinema in general, but it's not because the film has a low budget is going to be good. It's like we are also suffering because there's films which are difficult to watch. So I'm not the guy who is defending art cinema forever. We are defending creativity, emotions, of course. But it's really complex, because sometimes I'm really inclined to defend films which are a little bit more open, but we have to keep personal work. But if it's not good, we are not selecting it. We are selecting only the film we think it's good, not only because we love the film, but also for our audience. People are waiting for us to bring them more than a decent program, good films.
Thank you for all these explanations. It was very, I think, very clear, and it was lovely to have a chat with you and be able to have participants listen to you as well before you start with your jury duty. So I think I'm gonna say goodbye to you now. Thank you for all your contributions. And we're gonna stay open, and we're gonna have like 10 minutes break and then continue with work in progress pitching platform juries. So thank you, Per, thank you, Frederic, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you Wednesday.
See you. Hi, Anne.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Good, thank you. We're waiting for Bernd,
Of course.
but we're live because before you and Bernd, we had pitching platform juries meeting with us, and we had a little chat, and
Okay.
then we gave a 10 minutes break, and now we're gonna be online with you and Bernd. Yes, here he is. How are you? How are you, Bernd?
I'm fine, thank you. Oops. Just a minute.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We can hear you. Hello.
Here. Okay. Hello.
Just a quick reminder, can you mark yourself in the interpretation button as English speaking so that we have simultaneous translator right now, so people who wish to listen in Turkish can hear you in Turkish as well.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm not that used to this, apparently. I didn't know we could do it in several languages.
Yeah, well, you have to add them separately, but I think platforms are adapting to this technological issues more than before.
So there's an audience here?
Yes, we are live on YouTube as well as Zoom. So I'm just gonna wait a couple of minutes, and meanwhile I'm gonna introduce you. So our audience will be joining us. So Andaset is here with us today, as well as Ben Budar. They're both part of our work in progress juries with Sardar Can, but this talk is only with our international jury members, so I'm only having you guys as a guest today. Just to give a quick information about Anne, she's member of Cannes Film Festival, Directors Fortnight selection team since 2012. She also joined the selection of 71st Locarno Film Festival. This is only part of what she's doing, but we're gonna go deeper into what she's been doing so far. And Bernd is has been in many curatorial activities for various film festivals. And since 1996, he's been actively working in various positions in Cottbus Film Festival. And he's here with us today as the program director, which he started in 2015. Also, Bernd, you are the cinema coordinator for the Berlinale Film Festival's forum section. So welcome you both.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
This is just a quick catch-up talk before your jury duty starts on Thursday with the work in progress pitchings. As a film industry in Turkey, as our pitching finalists, we wanted to get to know you better, have a little chat about what we've been doing, what you've been doing, and your opinions and perspectives about cinema projects from Turkey. So I prepared a couple of questions, but we can just like keep it a general casual talk. So please feel free to add anything if you wish to.
Okay.
So Anne, I can start with you. As a member of selection committee, how's your workflow like? What do you do? What does a selection committee do?
So for Cannes, it's quite a different situation than for other film festivals, I guess, in a sense where films come to you more than in other festivals where you have to go and search for them. So of course, we search for films from all over the world, like everybody else. But there is this tendency where you're not supposed to go and fetch them; they come. So I have a contract. It's from February to May only. So selection teams starts. The submission starts in November, and we end around the end of April. but my really actual work contract starts in January or February, depending on what other job I have. And we are 5 or 6 people, and there are different correspondents from different regions of the world. But we usually go to the cinema. We have a cinema hall in France, in Paris, and we go there from 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the night, and we watch the movies there all together. And these are the films that we see, because when you register for Directors Fortnights, you have the choice to register online and you send the Vimeo link, or you can send a DCP, you know, the cinema format. And depending on which format you choose, then the films will be seen all together in a cinema, or each member will see the film separately. But usually our natural day is really going to the cinema from 9 to 7 and discussing the films all together. And then what can I say? There are around 2,000 long features, and we select, as you know, around 20. So the selection is really quite difficult. I can say that now I'm working for Paolo Moretti, who is the artistic director of the Directors Fortnights. Before that, I was with Edouard Weintraub, who was the artistic director. And the job, of course, is still the same. The amount of films are still the same. But then maybe I would say the line of the festival is not the same now. It changed a little bit. And since for Cannes, you, as you all must know, but it's always good to remember, there are different sections. So there's the competition with the Palme d'Or. This is the official competition. And otherwise, the Un Certain Regard, which is a sort of out of competition of the competition, but still a competition. Sorry, doesn't make much sense, but it's still official competition, official selection. Then there's a Critics Week, which is dedicated only to first-time films, and Directors Fortnight, which is a section, a parallel section that was born after the revolution, manifestations in Paris in May '68. Then they created a new section for against censorship and with more creativity inside the section and everything. And so it was born from that. So it's historically it's like a different section that was a bit more punk-like. And now it's inside Cannes Film Festival, but not in official selection. So when you register a movie, you have to register for all the sections, and then if you're lucky, then you'll be chosen from all the sections, and you can choose yourself in which one you would like to go. But it's, for example, we don't speak, of course we speak, but we don't collaborate with the people from Critics Week or from the official selection. It's like 4 different festivals inside one festival. So just that's very concrete tips, but it's just just for you to know that you have to register in each selection. But otherwise, my job. Yeah, sorry. But otherwise, the job is really to watch movies and to discuss each title, and then little by little, according to what we have, then have a sort of image of the selection we want. But it's not like a festival where you can have different sections, or you can have a retrospective or something like that. It's really just 15 films in competition. So you can't say that it's a portrait of something in the year or something like that. I would say not like Cottbus, for example.
And how long does the selection process in duration? It should be hard watching more than 200 films, you said.
No, 2,000.
2,000, sorry.
No, 200 is like 2 days. Come on. Yeah. No. It's, I would say, well, we work from February to end of April. But it's not really true. I mean, we work all the year, of course, because for example, now we get already movies that are also ready for Berlin. So they would say, we are invited in Berlin, but maybe we would want to know if we can go to Cannes. So they always try to be everywhere. And so we are already watching films now. It's just the contracts that we have that are not big enough for us to be paid the whole year, but the actual job starts, I would say, very hard in January, and then it ends. The press conference is in end of April, and that's really every day, every single day, Saturday, Sunday, and you know, because we are, the amount of film doesn't shrink so much. If we don't see films, then yeah, all the films are seen, so we have to make in a way that all of them are seen, so we watch them all.
Yeah, and you probably have this schedule where you follow up films, like from like the directors you know with their previous work, so like you know when they will be sending you the film, so you just like follow up with those projects too, so it's like kind of a job that continues throughout the year.
Absolutely. And that's why also these labs are very useful. This year, of course, it was special, but all of us have several jobs because programming job is only a few months in a year. So we all have different hats, and we all of us travel really a lot. Some of them are distributors or producers, my colleagues, I mean, or some of them are programmers for different, or a cinema hall or other festivals, and we all travel around the world usually and participate into juries or labs and films and things like that. And this is for us really quite useful because we have a database in which we put which sort of spotlight things that, of course, film festivals like yours and labs do the first job doing a selection inside the lab, so we see the works in progress, and then we follow up with that, of course. But I have to say that's also in a dream way we try to follow up with everybody, but it's really quite difficult to do it because we have a lot of other jobs. But yes, the best is to try to keep in contact with the people we met in different film festivals and follow up. So the one advice for people who are, I don't know the audience of people who are listening, but if you, I would say, if,
I can ask my technical team, but we have people online on YouTube and as well as in Zoom.
Yes, so, but I was wondering if they are film directors or producers, or you know,
yeah, they're mainly industry guests. So it's like directors, producers, newcomers, new filmmakers. So it's like a general audience.
Okay, but so the best thing is to if we met, well, if we will meet with the people who are in work in progress tomorrow. The best is really to keep in mind that you can contact us when you send the film to say, I don't know if you remember, but we met or in real life or not. But and just to put your film back in our heads is always a good idea. Don't be too pushy and say, blah, blah, blah. Don't poke on Facebook and everything, but be I mean, an email, and just remembering us that we sometimes met, or I heard about your project, is always very nice, because in 2000 movies we have a pile like that, then it's always really nice to see a film by somebody who you met sometimes. It's always better. And also it means maybe I will watch it differently because I will have to go give a feedback. So my attention will somehow maybe be more focused. Maybe, I don't know. That's horrible for the other one. So I don't want to say that, but I mean, it's yes, it's your job to bring light to your films, because there are so many films. You have to sort of make the difference, of course, with making a beautiful film, but also by spotting light on your film, like in this lab, things like that. So in November, I'm like, oh, this film, it rings a bell, and I watch it, and then you can also write for a feedback, and also here try to not be too pushy, because we don't have time to give 2,000 feedbacks, but it's also our job to give feedback. So don't hesitate, and don't be shy with programmers, because we don't really have a job if you don't do your job. So
and also it's always that's why it's very important, like these kind of platforms bring people together for this network, and to be able to present yourself as a producer, as a director, and your project as well. So thank you. And Bernd, you've been quiet till
yes,
now.
So for us it's a bit different. So we, as a smaller festival, which is focused on Eastern Europe, plus the neighboring countries, Turkey, Greece, and Finland. We have to hunt for films, which means we do scouting. We are traveling to most of the national festivals and to the big festivals, and to look for films, to scout for films. We also have our own co-production market, Connecting Cottbus, which we hold a lot of synergies to see which films are in production, which are in development. And many of them, of course, end up in our festival. So we are requiring for a German premiere, which means we are in competition with some of the German festivals which are close to our dates, which are in November and October. And that means for the selection process, then that sometimes if I like a film very much, I invite it on the spot. But we have also a selection committee of 4 to 5 people who are consulting me, not only for the competition sections, which are for short film, feature film, and youth film, films about young people, but also for the special sections. So in general, we have 15 sections, among them sections which are on specific countries like Russia and Poland every year as the biggest production countries from Eastern Europe. This year we have a special focus on Czech cinema. Next year the plan is to have one on Turkey. And so we are always running around and looking for films. And we also have our regular guests. For instance, those ones who had their first film in Cottbus, maybe. So the ideal way is to have it at Connecting Cottbus, develop it there, and to have a work in progress at Connecting Cottbus, and then the film and its festival. So that it's not typical, but that would be the most ideal way. And we are following careers like of directors like Ivan Tverdovsky, Oleg Novkovich, and Bogdan Slama since the very first film of Peter Zelenka. But the idea is to arrange encounters between old stars or renowned stars of the film scene with young talents. And I think a festival like Cottbus is an ideal chance for young talents to get to know each other and to form like a friendship group, which is very useful when you go to film festivals like Berlin and Cannes. So when you go to Cannes alone, you're a bit lost. And so it's always good to start a friendship on smaller festivals and to form a group which is supporting each other. So I followed many of those groups, and I'm quite proud that we managed to create some, like, I wouldn't call it Generation Cottbus. It's maybe a bit too high, but it's a bit like that. So yeah. So, and also for me it's the same. So just the appel is we are following you, but also filmmakers should follow us. So it's the same for us. So because sometimes you simply forget. So I counted, we were watching 792 films this year for this year's edition, and including short films. And especially when you have a wonderful short film, it could be the most brilliant masterpiece or creative piece, but in a way, sometimes you forget. So it's always also don't be too pushy, but be a bit pushy just to remember us that you are there and that there is an interesting film. And at least my goal is also always to give honest feedback within quite a short time, to be honest and frank with the film directors.
Yeah, I believe it's a delicate line, being pushy but not being very much insisting. So I want to get a little bit about like into detail about your artistic criterias and perspectives on what a good film is for you. So maybe Anne, we'll start with you and then go to Barry. That's how we started at the beginning.
Okay.
Thank you. So, well, I think it really depends on who is curating the section. So, of course, I think there's no such thing as a good film or a bad film. Of course, that's a bit blah blah, but it's true. I mean, the same film could be very good somewhere and horrible somewhere else. So it depends on who is choosing it. So I think it's important when you submit a film to try to go and see inside the festival a little bit the identity of the festival you are registering to. For example, if you have a a huge historical drama in costumes and something very classical like that, you should not register for directors' fortnights, I would say, because we will not. We program, for example, now it's Paolo Moretti, the boss, as I said, and I think his there's no criteria really. There's no such thing like you can't have a voiceover or blah blah blah. It doesn't work like that. But you have to, for directors' fortnights, be a movie that would say something about the world now, which does not mean it's have to be a social drama or something like that, but just a point of view on the contemporary world or contemporary cinema, meaning not trying to imitate somebody else or not trying to be the best mute film ever or something like that. Something more contemporary and telling something with the urge of having something to say. I would say you have to be really sure that what you're saying has to spread the world and is really urgent. Something like that. A criteria of let me tell you this story now. It's telling me something about my world now. Something like that. But otherwise, we have no criteria for length. So you can have a 8-hour movie, which could be selected. And we also don't have quotas. We pay, of course, attention to having more as possible women in the selection and also in the selection committee in order to have women watch the films. But otherwise, from country-wise, since the festival is in France and it was created by a guild of an association of French directors, then the number of French movies is quite high in Cannes, as you have noticed, I guess. But otherwise, we don't have quotas for countries, so we are not specifically searching for a film from Brazil or a film from Turkey or a film, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that, but of course we want to show the world, not only European cinema. So we think about it while we create the selection, but we don't really take quotas like that. And otherwise, I would say, I think it's important to direct a movie that you want to make, not trying to be somebody else or not trying to say, oh, I'm going to make this movie because I know these kind of festival love this movie. Because we can quite a lot sense this kind of thing when it's not like that it's really dishonest, but sometimes it's a bit like, oh, I'm sure if I put a blind child being in a desert, that's the films that festivals are looking for. And yeah, this is quite an alert in our heads that say, no, this is a bit dishonest. The story needs to be honest, and it needs to be something that you have to create because it's inside you, not because it works in festivals, something like that. And that's quite important. And in this sense, I would say that you shouldn't, for example, for Turkey, you shouldn't think that we are expecting something from your country. For example, maybe I'll give an example from Brazil again. I don't know. We are not looking, when we watch a Brazilian movie, we are not expecting to see music or beaches or football or things like that. We're really not. I really don't think so. And from Romanian cinema, we're not waiting to see the new Cristi Puiu or things like that, because all countries have huge examples, and for you, of course, you have Palme d'Or examples, and so it's hard. But you have to be careful to not try to imitate, and just try to make your own movie, and don't think that because it's in Turkey we are waiting for, I don't know, I've never been to Turkey, so I don't even know what examples to give, but for sure
we want you here.
But for sure we're not waiting for you to create the typical which I don't know what it is, Turkish cinema, because this is what Cannes is waiting for. And this works for every country. And in fact, we're waiting for a film that touches us and makes us evolve in our head, but not because it's English or Polish or something like that. For Cannes, I mean, really not. We're not waiting for something already done. I don't know.
And what about you, Bern?
I agree with most of your points. Sometimes, for us, I would also say, so a film festival is not a world championship. So it's not about the best film from a country. It's about, for me, it's more about the creative energy. It's about one specific, very original point. So sometimes even I can like a film more, which has some failures or some mistakes in dramaturgy or acting, but has a very specific focus. And what for me is always super important is that it strengthens some dialogue, that it puts its energy to the spectator also. So an ideal film is when you wake up next morning, even when you did not like it that much, but when you wake up next morning with this film in your head. And if you discuss it with the other people in the audience. And we had this very often in our audience. So my most favorite scenes is one when we had a Serbian film, and after the film, a spectator, she was standing up and telling the author, okay, please, can I hug you? Because I love your film so much. And I think I can't give any criteria also. It's a bit like falling in love with a film or whatever, or falling in love with some extraordinary aspect. Sometimes a film which tries to be super perfect can be quite boring. And afterwards you finish the film and say, okay, this was a decent film, but it's not that interesting. And a film which has some mistakes, but has a super original approach, you say, wow, that's it. I never saw such a film from this country or so. Another important thing is that one of our main goals is to work against cliches. So it's extremely important for us. Like you have those from Germany, you have the Stasi cliche, for instance, or Nazi cliche, and from Serbia you have gypsy brass bands or whatever. So and I always love it when, I mean, for me it would be perfect to have from a war region a romantic comedy, because this would break cliches, and yeah, something which is not expected by everyone, especially not by us. And so it mustn't be always something super new, because also creative people are not inventing everything anew every time, but it should speak from its heart, and it should also have a cinematic language. So there's often it's quite, if you have a TV film, it's good for the TV, it's good for the small monitor, but the film has to fill the big screen. So that's very important for me. It's super important.
Yes, it's true. A film that you would not have been able to make in a podcast or something like that.
Yeah.
A film that the base is really cinema, and yeah, that serves from cinema.
I mean, I accept TV films and podcast films, but they are made for the podcast. You can't watch Tarkovsky on a podcast, and you can't watch podcast films on a big screen.
Absolutely.
And in this falling in love process, do you think the budget of the film, being a co-production with multiple countries, affect this process?
I think it sometimes gives more visibility to the films, which means for Cannes, for example, it gives also more pressure to the programmers to select it, but not pressure in a really bad way, but a bit, but more people talking about it, because since we travel really a lot, every time somebody goes to a market or something like that, people would say, you know this and this, because the co-producer would say, and then the world sales would say, and after, when it's registered, we all get an email by the director, since we met him in Turkey, and maybe the world sales because I saw him in Berlin, and maybe the co-producer because I was in jury somewhere else. So it just adds a bit of people wanting to know what you think about it, and getting the film on a list. That's for sure. It really works, and also, of course, because producers are generally talented, and also labs and things like that also are talented. So it's a way to already make a selection inside the huge amount of films there are. Then if you get a co-producer, it means it makes sense normally. It's not only for money, it's because it makes sense. So it's also all the levels of the industry are here to, inside this huge amount of films, just create some selections. And we are one of the last one, the festival, but then there's the theaters, of course. But so having a co-producer, of course, helps, yes, to get money. So you can also get maybe more money for your helicopter scene, or I don't know. But I don't think it's a criteria. But when you see, for example, Turkish movies that did a great job internationally, for sure, I think they are all co-productions. So it's not that you can't do anything without, but for sure it helps. Having a world sales is really a huge criteria also. And I mean, for films which go to Cannes, I'm talking about that, but otherwise, you know, I also work for Angers Film Festival, which is dedicated to first-time films. It's a festival in January in France, Angers, a city, and we also screen first-time films which don't have world sales or get them afterwards. And so I think you have to know what you have in your hands and then do what you can with what you have in your hands, because not all films are for Cannes, for sure. If you are a very, very small film in Cannes, you can also be really put in the bin, or I don't know, how do you say, sacrificed, or I don't know. It's not always a good, not every film needs to go or should go in Cannes. And it's just that you should aim for the big festival that is next to when you're finished, and you can try, but you also have to be careful of not being the small thing that nobody would pay attention to, instead of being a huge film in a smaller festival, which would bring the lights better to your festival, to your film. I mean, sorry, I'm confused, but just saying that Cannes, I mean, there's really a lot of movies that did beautiful careers without going to Cannes or Berlin or Venice. But co-production helps for the ones who are big.
Yeah. I also think, I think for debut directors, it's sometimes easier to have a no co-production, to start with one producer, because when you're a director, the producer all talk to you. They all want something to become different, maybe, because every producer is working for his or her own market and sees the market in a different scale. So sometimes, and co-production, of course, it gives more money, but sometimes it's also more expensive, because you have to travel, you have to meet, you have to pay, you have to spend some money in the country where you get the money from, which is sometimes very complicated with Germany, especially because you have to spend more money in Germany than you get.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes super complicated. So I always recommend for debut filmmakers to do the things very fast, because they have to be visible. The filmmakers, they have to finish their first ideas, their first films, and then to build up step by step. Maybe have a co-production with 2 countries in the beginning for the second film, and then add more producers. On the other hand, it's also so when you discuss with producers, they are also very creative people. They give input. They can correct some ideas, and they can maybe flatten you. As a director, you're full of ideas, and they're there to say, okay, stop. So you have ideas for 5 films. Let's make 1 film now. That's super useful, and also, like you mentioned, the context. That's the capital of the producers. But I would also always recommend to consider that the process of co-production is not prolonging the process of filmmaking. Because I think, especially when you're young, you have a certain idea, and when it needs you 5 or 6 years to produce your second film, then you start with 23 and you finish it with 29. With 29, maybe you already have a family and 2 kids and your 3rd car or whatever. So which means some energy is on a different level there. So I think instead of waiting for too long for a co-producer, maybe better keep the energy level high and do it faster.
And be careful of not doing a co-production that, as you said, that brings you to, for example, Germany for everything, and it makes no sense. Sometimes also when we see movies, I guess it's the same for you. Sometimes a character has to go to Italy, and you're like, oh, this is just only made for co-production, you know? Sometimes in the script, you can feel that somebody is calling from I don't know where, and you're like, oh, hello, co-production. It's really very pushy when the co-production means a transformation inside the script, then you should really be careful. Or it's written like that and it makes sense. Or if you have to bend your film too much in order to go inside the co-production, then we can really feel it usually.
Yeah, sometimes it's quite funny. I once saw a Bulgarian film where they were drinking Swedish beer in Sofia. And yes, I never found any Swedish beer in Sofia. So
product placement.
It was a good film, but it was a co-production with Sweden, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, that's a bit weird sometimes.
I think you're sharing very, very valuable information in terms of the production strategy, festival strategy. Everything is like coming together. And while we talked about the importance of visibility, like platforms like Bosphorus Film Lab, Connecting Cottbus, project development markets, international ones and national ones, they're all a fundamental place that a project should be joining and being represented. And that being said, Ben, can you briefly explain your thoughts about Connecting Cottbus and what is your strategy, plan, and aim?
I mean, Connecting Cottbus, I think it's most ideal when you're still a young filmmaker and you want to find attention for your second or third film. We also had more renowned directors, but I think for the second or third or even fourth film, it's quite ideal because you can introduce your project into the international scene. So it's not only for those people who are joining Connecting Cottbus, but also for those people who notice that the project is there. And you can already make some fuss. You can, especially in Cottbus, because it's not a super big market. We have around 150, 180 guests, plus the festival guests. So which means you meet everyone more than one time. You have 3 days. You can not only talk during the one-to-one meetings, but talk also for a coffee when meeting those people. So which means there's a very in-depth communication about your project. Which, I think I would recommend those of course, those visiting, even when your film is not selected, your project, then it's useful to visit a co-production market, just to get in contact with some people, also maybe to introduce your project to someone beforehand and to talk with people. What I would not do is to travel to all the film markets, to all the project markets. Sometimes is that there's a project which you saw 1 or 2 years ago, and all of a sudden it's again on the project markets, which makes not the best impression, because the general impression is, oh, they did not find any co-producer yet. So I think you definitely have to think very carefully at which point, in which stage you're entering the co-production markets. And then I would say, do not join more than 2 or 3. And if you do, join them in different regions of Europe or even the world.
Thank you. And I think that kind of relates to what Anne talked about earlier, about like project film having something to say about today's world, about today's problems and current situations. So like if you connect it to what Bernd has been explained, it's like having a project and having it present in the co-production markets for 2-3 years is also kind of making it getting detached from the problem, the current problem it should tell.
Yes, but I mean, it's not only the theme of. I mean, it's not because I think you can tell a story that is contemporary and still tell the same story 3 years later. It's more about in the industry, the signal you're giving when you're participating to a lab as a work in progress. 2 or 3 years in a row, then it's not a work in progress anymore. It's more that you still haven't found the right editor for your film, and you can't put it together. It's true that you shouldn't wait too much for movies, as you were saying, also because you need to put it out somewhere. You know, people, except for this year, because. But I would say even this year, but this year is really special because of the pandemic and everything. But you should not wait for something. If your film is ready, you shouldn't wait for the next Cannes. You know, if you're ready in June, then just go ahead with the next levels you have. And I think it's the same for the scripts, the pitching sessions, and for the work in progress things. Just aim for the big one that is next to your calendar, and then go ahead, because movies don't have so much life
expectancy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, films that are done or nearly done, they last for 1 year, because then sometimes we have in Cannes people who didn't get in this year and are trying again next year. Well, again, this year is a bit weird, but it happens, and you're like, why would I take it this new year? Because it's really rare that we watch film 2 times, so even the same year. So if you say, I changed really everything in the editing, I would say it never happened, and I've been working there maybe 10 years, that we take a film that we rejected another year. And while I say that, in fact, it did happen. So exceptions are always the case. But be careful that one film only lasts for 1 year. So don't wait too much and just put it out there. And I mean, I'm saying that, and I never did a movie. And you must be very courageous to put your baby outside, since you've been working for 5 years on it. But just respect the way it's going with the next things in the calendar. And don't say, we'll try next year, because next year you'll have 2,000 more movies in competition, and then yeah, that's the thing.
How were the things this year with the going online, having more films than usual and screening them? How were some of the feedbacks you received?
You mean with the pandemic?
Yeah.
Well, for Cannes, we started normally, and until we went to Berlinale, and then, well, like everybody, but so we went there, and then coming back, we still watched the movies together until the 10th of March, and then we were all locked down. So we did the selection, but not together. But then we decided not to give a selection. A selection was made, in fact, but more a short film selection, short list. And we didn't release a selection, in the opposite of the other selections of Cannes, who gave a label. And we gave labels 1-to-1, not on a total selection, but 1-to-1 for films who wanted to release during this year. Some of them have a Director's Fortnight label, but otherwise, some of them are willing to wait for next year. Some of them want to release. Some of them are going to other festivals. And Paolo Moretti decided it's not it's every film and every producer and every director has to make its own decision of what he wants to do with the film. And so yes, we are really hoping to catch up next year. Not sure.
Hopefully everything would go back to normal, but
it's
not very realistic.
No, not
at
true.
the same time, yeah. And Bernd, how were the things for you this year due to the pandemic?
I mean, it was to be honest, I enjoyed a bit traveling, not too much. So I had exactly two international festivals. The first was in January, Trieste. And the second one was Zielona Góra, which is a town in Poland, 80 kilometers from Cottbus, where I was the only international guest. And yeah, it was, we did all the selection with links or watching works in progress or watching the Cannes film market, which was it was a bit a sad feeling, to be honest, but it was well done. So I'm quite lucky that everything worked super well. Services were good, and the technical quality was also very good. And we did not have to wait in queues, and even we were not rejected. So even if you came too late, you were not the 51st person in Cinema Riviera 3, but you still were able to enter. So that was what it.
You didn't meet the people in the queue, and you didn't have new acquaintances under the rain, and
yeah. I mean that's yeah, but that's what you remember. So I met you in the rain on the burning sun in Cannes, and we were talking for 30 minutes about some films which I never saw before. So I'm missing that totally. So the social interaction. On the other hand, it was possible for us to compile a program for all of our sections. We established a dual festival, so which means our idea still is to show every film at least one time physically in a cinema, and to have like more than 50% of the program as a VOD offer for our audience. I don't know what will happen. So numbers of infections are raising up like hell. So sometimes I think it would be more reasonable to have another lockdown. On the other hand, I don't hope it. So last week we disinvited our last guests because we want to make our contribution not to make people traveling too much, even from Berlin to Cottbus. There's no sense in spreading the virus. So we will have online Q&As. The idea is to have it live in the halls, in the cinema halls, to have the moderator in the cinema hall with the audience and the director at the big screen, so that at least you can create a bit of festival atmosphere. It's a bit sad, it's our 30th anniversary festival edition, but it's like it is. So at least we took the advantage that our online offer will be German-wide. So also people from cities or villages very far from Cottbus will have the chance to watch Eastern European movies.
Sad, but
there's every crisis has a chance also.
Yeah,
that's what you always say. So.
No, it's true.
And my last question, we kind of touched upon it, but as our closing question, I want to know your thoughts about the films you see from Turkey, or the projects you read from Turkey, in terms of creativity, originality. What are your general opinions so far?
Well, I think it joins it's, as I said before, we're not for us for sure we're not waiting for something from Turkey, so we don't have an opinion about Turkey. It's quite the same, but I watched for this I went to see on our database which film from Turkey we selected and well, there was Mustang, so I guess maybe in Turkey you don't consider it as a Turkish movie. I'm not sure if it's it's a French Turkish, but for sure it was a film from Turkey. And there was where did I put it? Yumurta, the Semi Kalapongul in 2007. So that's the only two in 10 years that were selected. But I mean, for example, India only had one. So again, we're not country-wise selecting like that. But otherwise, as what should I say? Sometimes I think I remember seen some movies that, like I was saying before, that are very based on historical facts, or costume with a lot of music, and very classical films, and that depict historical thing in Turkey. I think this is, every country has its national cinema, and that's really great, and it has to be like that for sure. And it also creates jobs and blah blah blah. But these kind of films are not for a film festival categories, but it should exist. I'm not saying they should not exist, but it's not the kind of film we're going to select. And I remember seeing some films like that where I was really wondering why they would apply for a festival like Cannes, because it's really for a domestical audience, I would say. So that's, but otherwise, this year I've seen a film called Ghost by a woman director. What's her name? Yes, Denise, exactly. And I was really very impressed by this movie. I think the energy of the film is really very good, and it's there's the story, which is a bit of a chaos, but still beneath all the images behind we can see the city, and it brings many ideas. It made me travel, and I really miss traveling, so I was really happy to travel inside this movie, even though I thought it was, I loved the energy of the film. I thought it was good. Also last year there was Oray by Mehmet Akif Buyukutala, which also was but it's a German film. Maybe.
It's a German, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But also I thought it was really this also telling me something very contemporary about religion. And I think there's also, I think I also saw quite a lot of genre films, film noir from Turkey, which is also a good idea to express something about the society. I think it's, voila. Again, I'm not waiting for something special about Turkish cinema, but just to discover it, because I hope I don't know it so much, and I hope I'll never know it, because it would mean it would be finished. So,
I mean, I have the feeling that Turkey, I mean, it's a big country, and the film scene lives, that there's this commercial films on the one side, and the author cinema on the other side, and a huge market and production of TV series. So which means mostly all the people in film business, they find a job sometimes there and sometimes there. And I started to deal with Turkish films, watching commercial films in cinema, as every week 2 Turkish films are released in German cinemas for the Turkish diaspora, and found some of those historical films like Çanakkale or whatever, so which I think it's very national for the national market, let's put it this way. But also some really sharp comedies made by this BKM film production. Some of them are quite universal, and then they have a very huge way of comment, sometimes a bit cynical also, but very original societal topics, or even political topics. So I like most of the humor. And I think, on the other hand, there's a huge creative potential within the authors' film scene. So year after year, there are always young directors with a lot of energy, and who are coming to the point very straight, and often telling their films or the stories through atmosphere. So we have this year, as far as I remember, we have 3 Turkish films. We have 2 very original short films. One is Eileen, which tells the friendship, or the end of a friendship between 2 young girls, and just observing them walking through a small city. For me, it was, so one of my colleagues said, oh, there's nothing is happening there. And I said, that's why I like this film, because there happens nothing, like in friendship, sometimes nothing happens. So it's very original. And then we have this short film School Bus, which has this approach that a female teacher in a village school, she asked for a school bus, and the government is delivering the school bus, but without a driver. So she has to improvise, and this act of improvisation, I think that's typical. That's maybe a bit typical for Turkey, that you succeed to solve some problem through improvisation, and in the end, the problem is solved. And also you have, in our competition, we have the film In the Shadows, which is a kind of Brazil-like also cinema, very special, the set design, like a bit dystopian. And so you have, I mean, the Turkish landscape of film is so big and the tradition is so big that you find everything from entertainment stuff and up to experimental films. So it's you don't even have to dig very deep to find good films.
We have high presence, I can say, in Cottbus.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward. That's why I was developing this idea to have a focus on Turkey, because it really delivers so many different styles, and it delivers always something which you don't expect from Turkey.
Mm-hmm. And would it be a focus on contemporary cinema or from?
It's contemporary cinema. If it would not be contemporary, but also which I also like very much, those Yeşilçam films, or those films where they remade Star Trek and so on. This what is called Tourist Ömer. It's super funny. So just stealing international cinema hits and Turkify them. There's a lot of humor. So it's things that should be a retrospective one for a festival which deals with older films.
So,
but we will focus on contemporary cinema, yes.
Okay.
So Anne and Bernd, thank you so much for joining us. We're coming towards the end of our session. Very appreciate you taking time to have this chat with me, and we will meet again in the work in progress pitchings on Thursday, so we're very excited for that too. And once again, thank you for your time, for your contributions, comments. I think everybody really enjoyed having you here. And also, just to remind to our viewers, this talk will be available on our YouTube channel, in our Boğaziçi Film Festivali YouTube channel, so you guys can always go back and watch it again if you want to.
2 times.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Bernd.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Thursday. And if you have questions, I don't know, if we didn't speak about something, we can talk again on Thursday, or
Yeah, well, we can get the comments and
exactly.
then maybe have a communication started with you again.
Yeah, if you want, that's
definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the conversation, and see you Thursday. What time is it for us?
Sorry?
It's super early in the morning, right? It's 8. Okay, 8. Okay.
It's gonna be, yeah, because it starts at 10 here, and because we didn't have the time changed, we have 2 hours difference.
Yeah. So 8. I'll be there with coffee.
Sorry for that.
No, it's perfect. Don't worry. I'll be there.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
How to close this?